From the New York Times, it's The Headlines. I'm Tracy Mumford. Today's Tuesday, March 18th. Here's what we're covering.
It feels like we have returned to some of the bloodiest moments of the war. Our colleague in Gaza, Bilal Shabir, woke to the terrifying sound of explosions near his home in central Gaza. The walls, he said, began to shake, and very quickly he realized that war had returned.
Patrick Kingsley, the Times Jerusalem bureau chief, says Israel has launched a new large-scale attack in the Gaza Strip. The strikes began overnight and have killed more than 400 people, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. It's the largest wave of violence since a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas went into effect in January. But recently, talks on how to extend that ceasefire have stalled.
What we don't think has happened yet is any sign of a ground operation. We think these are all airstrikes so far. That could change very quickly. Israel had planned for weeks for renewed ground operations, renewed invasion of places that they had left during earlier phases of the war. But we don't see that just yet. And that has caused analysts to wonder whether this is still a short-term effort to force Hamas to compromise during ongoing negotiations, or whether it is in fact the opening salvos of a much more intense full-scale war in which Israel, once and for all, will attempt to force Hamas from power. It's not clear where on the spectrum between those two things we are yet.
Live coverage of the strikes and the fallout is at nytimes.com. In Washington, the showdown between the Trump administration and the courts escalated yesterday over recent deportations. A federal judge questioned a lawyer for the government about what time exactly the U.S. deported hundreds of Venezuelan migrants this weekend. He wanted to know the timeline to see if the Trump administration had defied his order to stop the flights and even turn them around midair if necessary. The Justice Department lawyer repeatedly stonewalled the judge and refused to answer his questions, citing national security. A Times review of flight data, though, does provide a timeline. The data shows that 2 of the planes were mid-flight and 1 had not taken off yet when the judge's order was posted, apparently putting the administration in violation of the ruling. The tense back and forth between the judge and the government lawyer was the latest and potentially most serious flashpoint yet between the White House and the judicial branch, as many of the president's actions face legal challenges. If the executive branch does not comply with judicial rulings, it could push the country towards a constitutional crisis.
You're going against the judges now. What's next?
Another flight every day.
In an interview on Fox News yesterday, President Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, promised the deportations will continue.
I'm proud to be a part of this administration. We're not stopping. I don't care what the judges think. I don't care what the left thinks. We're coming.
Here are 3 more updates on the Trump administration. President Trump is set to speak today with Russian President Vladimir Putin about how to end the war in Ukraine. When asked what they would discuss, Trump said it would include, quote, dividing up certain assets, which echoes earlier comments from U.S. officials that Ukraine will have to give up some of its land as part of any peace deal. Also, President Trump said he's pulling Secret Service protection for Joe Biden's adult children, Hunter and Ashley Biden. Since taking office, Trump has revoked Secret Service protection from a number of people he perceives as his adversaries, including members of his first administration, Mike Pompeo and John Bolton, who have faced ongoing death threats. And
you've got a lot of reading. I don't believe we're going to redact anything. I said, just don't redact. You can't redact.
President Trump says his administration will release 80,000 pages of documents today related to the assassination of John F. Kennedy, but he didn't say what's in them. The assassination has long fueled conspiracy theories, including some that Trump himself has shared. In Texas, authorities have arrested and charged 2 people with violating the state's near-total abortion ban, a midwife and her colleague. These appear to be the first criminal arrests of alleged abortion providers in the U.S. since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade 3 years ago. In a statement, the Attorney General of Texas said that the midwife operated a network of clinics in the Houston area. She was also charged with practicing medicine without a license. According to a friend of the midwife, she had been on her way to one of her clinics when she was pulled over by police at gunpoint and taken into custody. Until now, states with abortion bans have largely only threatened prosecution rather than carry out actual arrests. And finally, the main climbing season on Mount Everest starts next month, and expedition companies there will be trying out some new tech. They're going to be testing drones to carry some of the load. Right now, Nepali Sherpas carry the heavy equipment for many of the climbers who try to make their way up the world's tallest mountain. The Sherpas also carry ladders to put over crevices and stash oxygen bottles at high camps. They can make the climb at least 40 times a season with all of that in tow. Now, the drones will be used to ferry some of it instead and to cut down on transport time. Goods that would normally take about 7 hours to carry on foot can be airlifted in about 15 minutes. By relying less on Sherpas and reducing their number of trips, expedition companies hope that the chance of fatal accidents will go down. There have been multiple deadly tragedies involving Sherpas, including an avalanche a few years ago that killed 3 of the guides. The plan is also to use the drones to pick up some of the trash that climbers leave behind. Some years, volunteers have collected more than 20,000 pounds of trash off of the mountain. Those are the headlines. Today on The Daily, how President Trump is targeting a single law firm as part of a revenge campaign against his political enemies. That's next in the New York Times audio app, or you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Tracy Mumford. We'll be back tomorrow.